But no, Tom all around was just great. It was really fun. I don't even remember. I just had a good time.
Yeah. So there's that one verse a million or a billion format that I've noticed. Then I guess when I zoom out, like you've always done kind of human experiments, right? Like the one
experiments.
Yeah. No, but you know what I mean? Like
now, although the videos that MrBeast makes don't completely fit the definition of a human experiment, they are still very much experiments carried out on humans. That's because they involve MrBeast giving a random Homo sapien a questionable challenge to complete, and if they succeed, they would get thousands of pieces of special paper. It's special because everyone on the planet is affected by it. No matter who you are, what values you hold, and even the society you're part of, these pieces of paper that represent the idea of money would dictate a very large part of your life.
This is gonna change my life. Tomorrow I'm gonna take a lot of this and pay my bills.
So what happens when a multi-millionaire starts waving thousands of dollars in front of your face? Well, something strange happens. We begin to act in a very weird way. We begin to fall for cognitive traps, and the decisions we make become very questionable. However, for MrBeast, all of this makes fascinating content.
Oh, does this feel condescending to anyone else?
Watching someone trying to beat a rather silly challenge for a ton of money makes our neurons very excited. But why are we so captivated by people slowly losing their sanity, dignity, and general health for economic reward? Because hypothetically, they are free to leave at any point. So why do so many of them push themselves to those extreme limits?
It's honestly like the lack of fresh air. I feel sick. The doctor checked me out today. My throat's like kind of messed up. Slightly considered the possibility of pushing the button.
I mean, it's not like anything is holding them back.
Would feel bad for him, except he's won $450,000.
And he can leave whenever he wants.
The thing is, MrBeast didn't always make videos about giving out money. Like most YouTubers at the time, Jimmy came from humble beginnings, usually making gaming videos or videos about the wealth of other YouTubers. A few years later, Jimmy was able to get his first brand deal, and this, ladies and gentlemen, changed everything. The video blew up. MrBeast got millions of views, the brand got a ton of exposure, and all parties in the economic cycle of YouTube were very happy. But this wasn't just luck playing its hand. To prove it, Jimmy reinvested all his profits.
It's hard because I still reinvest everything my YouTube channel makes. Like, people don't believe it when I say that. People didn't believe it when I said that 4 years ago, but still to this day, I just pour it all back in.
And started repeating this style of video, constantly tweaking the formula until he got to a place where his videos can easily make around $20,000 within the first hours of being published. Satisfying YouTube's algorithm clearly made him very wealthy in economic capital, which means he has a lot of special paper at hand. However, for Jimmy, economic capital is not that important. And although he may not admit it as much as he should, there is a type of capital that is way more important to him. A form of capital, if removed, his whole empire would crumble in a matter of days. That being human capital. Human capital is basically the assets that people in your company can bring, like their thoughts, feelings, ideas, and hard work. For MrBeast, one of his most valuable forms of human capital are the contestants that participate in his videos. The beautiful thing about that is that all of them, even MrBeast, fall victim to their own psychology, and that's where it really gets interesting. At the start of the video, MrBeast introduces the challenge and the crazy amount of money on the line.
If he stays in this circle for 100 days, I'll give him $500,000.
Whoever leaves the circle last wins $500,000. I will give you the $500,000 inside of this vault. $5 million in cash. I will give you $10,000 in a grocery cart.
At this point, spirits are very high.
100 kids are going head-to-head with their parents.
I'm not leaving. I'm not leaving either. You have to drag yourself by your hair!
Even though, statistically speaking, the chances of winning are minuscule. But almost like the contestants were not aware of this, most of them have already made plans of how they're going to win and what they're going to spend their money on.
You know, I'm a big family guy. Hopefully pay off my sister's student debt.
Oh, I cleared my schedule. I am literally good for the next 3 weeks.
However long that takes, weeks, months, it doesn't matter.
How long are you staying in this circle?
Well, I took off work until January 1st.
You took off work for the next 6 months?
Literally 100 people. This place is packed.
So it comes to no surprise that we humans love creating and following a plan on undefined variables. In fact, the plan continuation bias is the reason for why we continue to follow a plan even when circumstances change. This is mainly because we have bounded rationality, meaning that we have limited knowledge and cognitive resources. Pair that with the overconfidence bias.
If they're gonna be feeding us like this, I could be here like for the rest of the year.
Why would I ever leave? I could be here for years.
Don't test me. I can be here for days if you want.
Oh, really? Let's see it.
Won't stop, can't stop. I was built for it. I'm winning $1 million.
You can start to see that already the contestants are on the back foot.
You seem to be curling pretty slow.
Honestly, man, I can't feel my arm at this point.
Oh, really? Dave, what's he at? $32,000. $32,000.
I know I said 100,000 million, but let me tell you something, I got humbled.
Yet winning is not always on the agenda for all contestants taking part. Some instead decide to give into a thing called hyperbolic discounting.
I'm going to leave for $1,000.
This describes that people tend to prefer small, immediate prizes rather than the ones that are delayed but much larger. So, due to his intuitive expertise, MrBeast understands that if he needs people to leave the challenge, he can offer them a simple choice of either staying and going for the main prize, or to leave with a generous influx of special paper or items. By making these options very clear and simple, MrBeast helps contestants to avoid a thing called choice overload, resulting in contestants being more satisfied in their choice even if it wasn't what they initially wanted. Of course, you can't forget that people see losses and gains completely differently. Like for example, when these twins viewed getting $5,000 as a loss.
Like, I need the money. No. That is what our eyes are on, not that.
This is basically what underlines prospect theory. Previous experiences, cognitive anchors, and how things are framed, go check out part 1 if you want to find out more, all shape how we view the world. So when $250,000 is staring you in the face, the option of taking just a couple of $1,000s will feel like a major loss. So what did the twins end up doing? Well, they did exactly what these two gentlemen predicted they would do. They avoided the choice that seemed like a loss. Amos Tversky and Daniel Kahneman first pioneered the idea of loss aversion in their research that found that people react very negatively to situations that are framed as a loss and will actively avoid them. Which makes sense, right? But this happens even when the choice being avoided would actually be beneficial to that person. So it's not surprising that the twins and many other MrBeast contestants continuously choose not to go out for a smaller prize because it's always framed as a loss instead of a gain. For the people who do take the smaller prize though, well, they simply guarantee themselves some economic capital. Yes, it's usually just a fraction of the main prize, but because MrBeast loves giving away money, the contestants have more bargaining power than they may think. If they avoid the default effect and actively set Jimmy their price at which they will leave the challenge, the likelihood is that Jimmy will agree to their offer.
$9 less than the other guy.
Now, I do need to ask you though, would you be willing to take $1,900 for your Tesla?
How about if you beat a different challenge, I might consider it.
Okay.
You gonna pick?
Oh.
Wait!
No way!
Did he actually get it?
I'm giving away my car, I guess.
This way, they regain some autonomy and reintroduce MrBeast into his own human experiment. So essentially, these contestant-based videos are all unstandardized experiments that investigate just how far people will go in order to secure large piles of money. But because the economic reward is so substantial, people will not only fall for these cognitive traps, but also risk hurting themselves and others in the process. Now that's something we will look at in the final part of this series. So I would definitely recommend subscribing, and in that way you won't miss out. But for now, I would argue that the most influential bias out of them all, the one that really gets people to go beyond their breaking point, is this one, the sunk cost fallacy. This phenomenon describes when people are reluctant to abandon a strategy because they have heavily invested into it. In a way, it's similar to the planned continuation bias, but the sunk cost fallacy usually appears further into a challenge, like in the Survivor 100 Days series. In these videos, contestants forego natural light, varied diets, neuronal stimulation, and even basic human interactions.
It's the first interaction I get all day, and it's the freaking robot. Thanks for the money.
All for an extremely long period of time.
You seem to be doing really well. I'll see you in a month.
A month?
I think he's kidding, but he's probably not.
I mean, in this particular video, the editors show exactly how the contestants would divide their money if they stay for the amount of days they planned for. Thing is, making a plan like this only makes the contestant feel like they have to stay in the challenge even if they no longer want to.
You're getting paid 10 grand a day to miss your family.
Yeah.
And you can just do this however long you want.
Yeah.
And you can just do this however long you want.
Realizing that if he just stays for a few more days, he can pay off all his debts. Stay another few more days means he can buy his dream car, but stay a few more weeks and now he can put a massive down payment on a house. Investing so heavily in this strategy is exactly why the contestants continue to stay in conditions that are just simply not fit for any human being. Yet as a viewer, this is oddly what we find entertaining. After all, we are extremely social animals. We crave drama, storytelling, and the struggle that underline them both. I mean, catharsis theory explains this phenomenon from a more cynical standpoint, saying that we release strong or repressed emotions in order to help us relieve psychological distress. However, I personally like what social comparison theory says on the matter. In this theory, it is said that individuals compare themselves with others in order to determine their own abilities, attitudes, and beliefs. I mean, in this video, MrBeast even gives you a contestant of the same age as yourself, so you'd have someone to root for.
1-year-old versus a 100-year-old. But that concept was really fun.
Yeah.
And you're doing things now where, like, you know, I felt connected to the contestant at my age, which is so smart, right? When you do that, you're like, yeah, I'm 33. So I was connected to the 33-year-old, right?
Yeah.
I was like, okay, that's cool. And I can say on your new video, there's something similar.
Either way, these videos are created in a way to maximize the enjoyment of the viewer while seeming like a great benefit to society, as you obviously can't argue that giving away thousands of dollars is a bad thing. However, what's concerning is the circumstances under which this act takes place. Because in order to win these contestant videos, especially the survival ones, you have to take part in something called an opportunity cost. This is basically the cost of giving up something in order to do the alternative. Unfortunately, in these videos, the opportunity cost is always disproportionately skewed against the contestant. This is because in order to pay for simply the opportunity to win, the contestants do so by giving away all these things for an extremely long period of time. But who do they pay it to? Now has the control over these things? Well, essentially, it's this man. So basically, each time a contestant agrees to do a MrBeast video, they hand over a large part of their own autonomy over to Jimmy. Doing so now allows him to strategically use those things against them, all in the goal of making the most entertaining video possible. The combination of the two is why we see so many psychological traps and biases crop up, and because the stakes are so high, so many of the contestants will end up falling for them. This brings up a lot of ethical issues, so many in fact that I will dedicate a whole video to it. However, we only have to take one step back to see that most of these contestants suffer in their respective ways, and I don't think many of you would disagree with the fact that human suffering is something that simply should not be monetized. Yet, these pieces of entertainment are disguised as acts of charity in order to justify exactly that. Now that point is debatable, but in one way or another, the only people that can afford to play with people's circumstances and package it as something positive are multi-millionaires.
I don't care if you go a year, I got the money.
Which is dystopian to say the least. So, taking everything into consideration, this makes there be only one true winner. In each video, at every deal, on any day, the net benefit will always lie with MrBeast.